Welcome traders to this video review of Thursday, August 23rd and Friday, August 24th. And in these two trading days, we basically had a little over 53 points available to us on both days. So I'd like to take a look at some of these trades, and I'd like to see if there's a few things that we could learn from them also. The first trade of the day actually came at the open, and you see that I did not mark it here because some traders are going to want to avoid the open. However, we developed two POC extensions here, and that took us approximately 7 or 8 points higher. We traded from counter trend zone to counter trend zone, and when that happens, that is a strong trend reversal. You notice that I did not mark trade up here because in a strong trend reversal, that is a pattern that I would consider high risk to be trading this pullback. If we did, we can see that we're only going to get a point or two out of that until we trade back to the minor support zone. At the minor support zone, in a strong trend reversal pattern, this is where we'd expect to see buying, and in fact we did. At exactly the zone, we developed two different POC extension trades, which took us 5 points higher into a POC absorption and extension pattern at another blue counter trend zone. So that first trade was good for approximately 5 points. At the counter trend zone, we developed a POC extension and absorption pattern and then traded down almost 14 points over the next 45 minutes. And what was really unique about that is we did not develop any buy signals on the way down. In this pattern, we would expect to see a trend trade develop here, or possibly a counter trend trade develop here. So these are the two areas I would be concerned the most with about watching for a exit and possible reversal. At the intermediate support zone here, we did in fact see some buying, but no signal developed. And at the counter trend zone here, we again saw that buying, but no signal developed. The market traded down and then all the way to the bottom where we developed a POC extension and absorption. Again, for the reasons I stated at the beginning of the day, we are in a strong trend, and this would make this trade here, even though it was good for 4 points, a high risk trade to take. So I did not indicate that as a trade that I would necessarily recommend to traders. Here's what that chart looked like on the order flow side. We developed the POC extension and absorption here, another extension, more extensions, all the way down. You see that there was not a single order flow buy signal given. And at the bottom, we formed two POC absorptions and a POC extension. In a strong trend, we would expect to trade back to the minor resistance area, which we did. However, at the peak of the trade here, we did not develop any order flow sell signal. We didn't develop it until this point right here. So because of that, I'm not considering this a trade, even though it again went for approximately 3 or 4 points. We traded down into a ZTP order flow at the bottom. As the market tested that low, we developed a POC extension and absorption at this point right here. On the smaller time frame chart, we see we traded into a reversal pattern of tick divergence, and that was where the ZTP order flow had developed at. At the intermediate support zone here, this is where we developed the two POC trades at a known ZoneTraderPro pattern of both a reversal and a trend trade, and then proceeded to trade higher. If we entered from the more conservative zone, that trade was good for approximately 5 points. At that point, you can see that we traded within 1 tick of the blue counter trend zone, and I have an arrow indicating that if we were to take it from that point, that would be a high risk trade versus trading approximately 5 minutes later where the price actually touched the blue zone, and I've indicated that was a low risk trade. Well, you don't find that answer on this chart. What we do is we have to look to the smaller time frame chart again to see what was going on there. Okay, on the smaller time frame chart, what we did is we traded from blue zone to blue zone exactly as we did in the open, and we again traded back to the minor support zone, which the theory says we are going to do. Because we were in a strong trend reversal, just as I said at the beginning of the day, that makes this a higher risk trade. The reward, similar to the beginning of the day, was similarly poor. The market traded to minor support, traded higher, and then traded into this exhaustion trade, giving us a low risk entry pattern. The second thing that lowers our risk is that at the high risk trading location, we only developed a ZTP order flow. Where at the lower risk trading position, we developed a POC extension. Either way, that was good for approximately 5 points, and it traded into a ZTP order flow and POC extension pattern. As we retrace from the blue counter trend zone to the intermediate support, what do we have? Well, we again have a ZoneTrader Pro trend trade. So we would look to reverse that here. Now, this brings us to one of our first real decisions we have to make on the day, and that is after we entered this trade here and we were several points into it, we developed a POC extension. Now, normally what we'd be looking for is we would be looking for a trade from here to culminate here at the blue counter trend zone. Upon developing the POC extension, the trader would have two options, and that would be either to get out of that trade or to significantly tighten the stop so that this trade would have presented little to no risk. As we can see, as we traded down into the first area, we created a POC extension, and then again at the intermediate support, we created another POC extension and absorption pattern there. Very interesting and very important to look at the smaller time frame chart, because on the smaller time frame chart we again see a trend reversal and a tick divergence trade down here giving us a buy signal, and we again see a reversal trend here at the second buy signal, and we then trade into intermediate support here where we received our third buy signal. And one of the things I just noticed is that this reversal signal here is being presented, and the reason for that is a setting within the ZoneTrader Pro settings panel. Normally I keep that at trade through intermediate at 4, which is what should have been on. When that does have its normal setting of a 4, we see that the reversal trade goes away. That setting of 4 means that in order for this trade to be here to be signaled, that the trend trade here must have at least 4 ticks of adverse excursion starting from the top of the support zone. In this case, we only had 3. When the 3 was changed to a 4, that reversal pattern goes away. Regardless of what you did, if you took the absorption and extension trade at the intermediate zone here, that resulted in another 4-point trade, and that traded again to a blue counter trend zone with a POC extension, order flow, and absorption. Now you notice that I didn't mark this as a trade because what had happened is here they came and they ran the stops trading just 1 tick higher than the previous high. Additionally, down here we formed a ZTP order flow. It would be questionable whether or not, if you did take the trade, you made any money off of that. After they ran the stops, we developed a POC extension here. However, as you can see, I'm not counting that towards day's goal. If you had been in this trade and not pulled it or re-entered it here, obviously then you would have additional profit. On Friday, we had another good day with approximately 20 points available. Approximately 10-15 minutes after the open, we developed a counter trend trade with a POC extension signal, although that only gave us approximately 2 points. That traded into a trend trade down here, in which case we developed 2 different POC extension signals. trading us to the blue counter trend zone for 4 points. At the blue counter trend zone, we again developed a POC absorption and extension. That gave us another 2 points on the way down. And that brings us to our very first problem for the day. At the trend trade here, we developed an extension and absorption. However, the market traded up and then traded back down and through the intermediate support zone by a couple of ticks. After we had done that, we developed a POC absorption and a ZTP order flow. Depending on where your stop would have been, this trade could either have been stopped out or stopped and re-entered when the POC absorption signal had formed down here. The other hard part about this trade is that a ZTP order flow developed here at intermediate resistance. However, that's generally not a signal that I'm going to pull a trade off of if I'm in a pattern that doesn't seem to have been broken. At the counter trend resistance zone, we had no sell signal, and at the top we developed a POC extension, absorption, and a ZTP order flow. On a smaller time frame chart, this is what we would see. The market traded to the intermediate trend support, which justified the long trade from here, and then reversed and traded into a tick divergence pattern down here where the absorption pattern had developed, thus justifying an entry or a re-entry at that point to see if we would in fact trade higher. We did of course develop a reversal trade here, and the market did in fact trade higher. This move here is defined as a strong trend, and in a strong trend we should only return to the minor support area here, at which time the bullish move should extend. At the minor support, we only created an extension zone here. At the test of a low here, we created a POC extension, and that's why I have drawn that as a winning trade. In looking at the rest of the day, there was no trading signal that developed up here at the counter trend zone, and down here at the trend trade, only a stopping ratio and an extension zone was created, so I did not count that either as a winning trade. As we traded within 3 ticks of the blue counter trend zone up here, we developed both a POC extension at this area here, and we developed a ZTP order flow, POC extension, and absorption pattern here, which took us down another 5 or 6 points. Because we were 3 ticks away in this pattern, I chose not to include that as a trade. However, it definitely was close enough to be included as a valid trading pattern. At the low down here, we did develop a ZTP order flow and a POC extension. If that was taken, that was again taken for another 4 points to trade higher into the close. However, because we had traded from blue zone to blue zone, as we talked about earlier, I would have considered to have been a higher risk trade. And when we look at that on the smaller time frame chart, that confirms the analysis of a higher risk trade, as we had traded into a strong trend support area here. And even though this was tick divergent, this is not something that I would want to necessarily participate in. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or would like to see a demo of the program, please feel free to give me a call. Have a good day.